Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
I'm Faye.
And I'm James. So Faye, how's this week been for you?
In a strange twist of fate, I think things have massively changed. Like, you seem to be going out and about all the time, and I'm just like heads down all the time behind a computer screen. I don't know what I feel about it. Whether I'm missing everyone. I mean, I did go out the other week, didn't I, to the CW Founders Dinner and the BDO Mishcon event. But yeah, I went nowhere last week, apart from client meetings. Although I have to say, my client meetings, we had 2 new ones. Oh my goodness, they are amazing. Like, super interesting tech companies and really great examples of where science meets technology and lovely things happen. So yeah, maybe that's what's floating my boat at the moment.
Hopefully mushroom clouds don't happen though.
No, so sorry listeners, you couldn't see the action that I was getting. I got myself all excited thinking, first of all, I'm boring, and then I got excited. So there we go. Oh dear. Yeah, anyway, so were you gadding about again last week?
I was, yeah. Don't worry, I will get back into my usual routine of not talking to anyone soon. But a few things, yeah, we went down to London. I haven't been to London for a while, so there's a thing. Yeah, I went to the new AI hub in London. So I was hosted by Rupert Elston, who runs that. So thank you for the hospitality. Took a little tour and we were chatting about Cambridge and the London AI ecosystems. And Rupert did say he'll come onto the podcast. So definitely stay tuned for that, because I think that'll be a really interesting conversation. Yeah, and while I was there, I caught up with a couple of my ex-Twilio colleagues, Megan and Anders, who were in town for DigitalOcean's Deploy conference. And again, you know, a US software giant, really interested with what's going on in Cambridge. So I think another indicator that the word is getting out there, and there's a lot of outside interest in terms of how can people connect into the Cambridge ecosystem. So that's exciting.
And on that, following up on the Cambridge Tech Week, it has been amazing. Like, the coverage that's coming through, like a party in Estonia came over and they were publishing, you know, what their visit was like. So yeah, there's definitely increased interest, which is brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going years back, I remember there's been various initiatives, hasn't there, where there was a recognition that Cambridge needs to do a better job of opening up and providing a front door. Cambridge Tech Week is obviously a huge part of that. Innovate Cambridge is a huge part of that. So it's working. That's really good. Yeah, that was kind of it, really. Oh, and all of I mentioned last week we were going through a bit of a refurb, so all of the furniture's in now, and it really has made a difference. So pop in for a coffee and check it out if you haven't been into the Bradfield Centre for a few weeks.
Super job. Now, just before we get to the news, I've just remembered something that I wanted to raise. So we've talked many times about the tech community and Cambridge being quite a benevolent community. And some of you may have caught this. It actually got on the national news. The Arthur Rank Hospice, which is in Cambridge, based in Cambridge, have just lost pretty much £900,000 of their annual funding, which is absolutely devastating for them. So if that is something that you're interested in supporting, then I do urge you to go and speak to Sharon Allen or Julia Latif, because you can imagine they're in a slight state of flux at the moment. So I just want to give those people a shout out as well. So with that done, should we do the news, James?
Yeah, let's do that. So our first story is from Cambryonics. They have unveiled its globally game-changing ThunderSync 5-C16PD technology, which it says cuts device testing time from hours to minutes. The solution is a next-generation hub designed to power software testing, device refurbishment, and mobile device management in education, enterprise, and retail. The company recently won the Sir Michael Marshall Engineering Excellence accolade in the Business Weekly Awards and was in the running for the Business of the Year. They say the ThunderSync 5-C16PD slashes test time by automating zero-touch test configurations and speeding data throughput by over 7 times to give IT teams, software testers, educators and refurbishers a return on investment within hours and valuable hours back each day. Cambryonics' impressive list of clients includes Apple Education, CTDI, EA Games, Google, Heathrow Airport, the NHS, Porsche, Singapore Health Authority, SpaceX and Uber. So there's a pretty strong roster of names right there.
It certainly is. It reminds me I've got to ping them again about coming on the podcast. It's on my list to do, James. Next of all, trials are underway to test the viability of electric air taxi operations between Cambridge and Oxford. The venture could prove a crucial cog in plans to expand the trade corridor as the government bids to establish a Silicon Valley of Europe in the corridor. The Oxcam Advanced Air Mobility Corridor demonstrator, based at Bicester Motion, will look to test and exhibit the commercial and operational viability of electric air taxi operations between the university hubs. In providing a robust business case and concept of operations for the commercialisation of regional electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft operations, the project aims to directly support the government's ambitions to kickstart the economy by fostering rapid growth and improved connectivity in key regions. So this is big news. Duncan Walker, Chief Executive Officer of Skyport, said, "This project is truly innovative in its pragmatic end-to-end approach, demonstrating how AAM can deliver significant economic, social and environmental benefits to UK communities, ultimately boosting the national economy and cementing Britain's global leadership in future flight. It's a privilege to bring together and lead this consortium of top UK aviation companies, which will have a direct impact on the local economy." So wow, that's definitely something interesting to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, I did wonder, are we going to volunteer to do a live podcast, like flying between Cambridge and Oxford?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah.
Or maybe. We'll see. I'm not committing us, let's be clear. Right, okay. At the start of September, we interviewed One Spatial CTO Seb Lesware, and this week they've announced the signing of a new $1.7 million agreement with the Californian Department of Transportation. They oversee more than 50,000 miles of roads and play a central role in ensuring the safe and efficient movement of people and goods across California. One Spatial's technology underpins Caltrain's long-term data governance strategy and is used for data governance, which validates and integrates and synchronizes key databases across multiple systems and programs. So you can jump back to episode 155 to hear that interview with Seb.
Perfect. And another recent guest sampler from episode 142 have, together with the National Physical Laboratory, NPL, developed a pioneering test to validate the company's claim that its Morrow materials made from natural plant polymers are plastic-free. The breakthrough provides packaging manufacturers with credible assurance that samplers' Morrow materials meet tightening UK and EU regulations on single-use plastics, while also establishing the foundation for a first-of-its-kind validation method for plastic-free claims. There is currently no universally accepted method for verifying that material is plastic-free, despite increasing regulatory pressure to eliminate single-use plastics. The validation has already helped Zampler secure new contracts and opened the door to a high-value market. Dr. Mark Rodriguez Garcia, co-founder and CTO of Zampler, said, "Given the rapid pace of regulatory change, packaging companies desperately need credible assurance about any plastic-free product they buy. We hope this approach, the first of its kind as far as we know, can now be replicated by others to support plastic-free innovation more broadly."
Finally this week, Cambridge tech legend Sir Andy Hopper is a key figure in a new initiative called Common AI, which is designed to revolutionise the impact of artificial intelligence in both the UK and Europe. At the heart of this initiative is the non-profit engineering organisation Common AI CIC, a UK community interest company that will co-develop functional AI IP in partnership with its members. The platform additionally provides access to Common AI Compute Limited, a facilitator of cost-effective GPU resources, and both entities will be underpinned by a shared digital commons repository providing world-class resources to ecosystem members under time embargo. Through Common AI membership, AI-enabled startups and enterprises will gain access to world-class IP, including models, weights, framework software, training data, and hardware designs, while also gaining affordable access to critical GPU resources. Together, these capabilities will allow UK and European businesses to develop AI-enabled propositions that can successfully compete at global scale. Dr. Gavin Ferris, CEO of Common AI CIC, said, increasingly AI startups and SMEs find themselves unable to assemble the computing power, technology and strategic resources necessary to successfully compete on the world stage. Common AI's innovation platform, shared IP and industry expertise will play a critical role in levelling this playing field, unlocking new growth opportunities and protecting the long-term economic future of both the UK and Europe. So that actually sounds like a potential game changer, doesn't it? So we should definitely reach out to the team behind this idea and get them onto the podcast.
Yeah, and also, why is it a CIC? So putting something forward as a community project, why have they chosen the community interest company route?
Definitely sounds like an open source kind of philosophy, doesn't it, in terms of the digital commons and the co-creation of IP. As you say, it's a non-for-profit. So, yeah, it's a really kind of potentially radical approach to a big problem.
So I guess, Dr. Ferris, if you're listening, you need to come on. Tell us more. So just before we head into this week's episode with Forefront RF, when we were talking to them, as always happens, we end up having a conversation after the recording and they were like, oh no, we've got these amazing new animated videos. So once you've listened to the episode, do head over to forefrontrf.com and look at the animations if you want to find out any more. And with that said, it's over to you, James, for the introduction.
So we're here today on site at Forefront's office. It's going to be a conversation about silicon and chips and real good deep tech stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this. We're joined by Dr. Leo Laughlin and Dr. Alexander Doust. Welcome. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're both super busy. Let's do some introductions. Leo, do you want to go first?
Yes, sure. So, hi, I'm Leo Laughlin. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Forefront RF. Before founding Forefront, I was a postdoc at the University of Bristol, where I developed the core technology.
Hi, my name is Alexander. I have a background in engineering and science and have evolved over my career to be more customer focused and business development focused. And so I joined Forefront RF earlier this year in that capacity.
And we knew you from your previous role as well, didn't we, Alexander?
Indeed,
so who've also appeared on the podcast. So it's great to have you both with us today. So Leo, we first met when Phil O'Donovan, your then chair, brought my company in to do your first launch and funding release back in 2021. And I did comment earlier on, it's taken me this long to actually get you to sit here on the podcast. So I'm delighted to have you with us. But a lot has changed, obviously, in those last few years. But let's start with you a little bit, Leo. Tell us a bit about your journey as a founder and taking what you did over at Bristol and turning it into a business.
Sure. So Forefront RF as a company was founded in 2020. But for me, this is a project that started in 2012 with my PhD at the University of Bristol. So I did a PhD and then followed up with some postdoc work, around 8 years of research that was before the company was founded, developing the core technology. And it was around 2019 we'd got that research to a point where we realised that there was a real commercial opportunity to address a very, very large market. And that's when I set about founding the company. I was lucky enough to get a place on an enterprise fellowship at the Quantum Technologies Enterprise Centre, which sadly no longer exists. But that was a very helpful program which gave me some training on various aspects of things you need to know about to start a startup company, as well as paying me a salary, which meant I could give up my day job of writing research papers to focus entirely on founding the company. We got an Innovate UK grant in 2020 and some investment from Cambridge Angels, and we've been growing the company since then, growing the team, and here we are today.
It was really lovely, actually. Before we started recording, you'd had an all-hands meeting, and just watching the people flood out past us was really exciting. It must make you very proud.
Yes, yeah, we've come a long way, and it's really nice to see the team in the state that we're in now. We've got some really good people.
And we hear a lot, and we know that Bristol is, one of the key tech centres in the UK. What was it like being in Bristol, starting that business? Tell us about the support you got from the university or the kind of startup ecosystem in Bristol, the events and the support organisations. What's that community like?
And why you ended up here and didn't stay in Bristol.
Sure. So Bristol does have a very good ecosystem, And I can't speak highly enough of the QTech program. I don't think Forefront RF would exist without that program having been there. There are, many startups and many events there, many very useful contacts and people that helped out in the early days. But the reason to move to Cambridge was really access to talent. RF engineering is quite a niche skill set, and those skills are, the skill base in the Cambridge area is larger than it is in the Bristol area. So that was the key motivation for moving. I am actually also from Cambridge originally, so personally it wasn't too much of an imposition to move back here as well.
As Faye says, we saw the all-hands meeting. You've been in these new offices in the Jeffreys building since April, I think you said, Alexander. So, it must be an important milestone in the growth of the company. And how has that helped you kind of grow the culture of the company and bring people together in the same space?
It's been a real boost for the team moving into this nice space. I think we're still sort of riding the high now, even having been here a few months now. But practically, it gives us the space that we need to grow. So the lab is much larger. We've got 8 lab benches now. Previously, we only had a space for 3 in our old lab. So that means we can really do a lot more in parallel. And office-wise, we've got space to grow the team and have more office space.
And the growth wasn't just here in Cambridge, was it? I believe earlier on this year you'd opened an operation, a subsidiary near Eindhoven in the Netherlands. So what was the rationale for doing that? Was it talent? Was it suppliers? Why that location as a secondary one?
Yeah, again, great question. The access to talent was critical for us there too. 2 of our senior leadership team live in the Netherlands, and we have 2 further employees that are based in the Netherlands as well. In addition, there is a very significant semiconductor industry base in the Netherlands, so it gives us access to IC design houses there. And furthermore, also, as part of our product development, we have a multi-chip module solution. We are working with partners in the Netherlands to do the final assembly steps. So, 3 reasons why we have that link in with the Netherlands.
Fantastic. Well, you've touched on the product there, so let's get into the meat of this. This is the exciting bit, right? So, explain the product, explain the kind of gap in the market that you saw. You mentioned, obviously, Lilo, that this was work from your PhD. So, take us back a little bit in terms of like how you came across the idea and the kind of gap in the market and how you've onwardly developed that.
Yes, sure. Mobile phones have a fundamental problem in the way that they operate, which is the phone needs to transmit a fairly powerful signal so that it has enough signal power to get all the way to the base station. But at the same time, it needs to receive a very weak signal that's traveled a long way from the base station. So you have a huge difference in the transmit and receive signal strength levels. The transmit power is about 1 watt. The receive power is picowatts. So it's 12 orders of magnitude. And if you don't do anything about this, then your transmit signal will just drown out the signal that you're trying to receive. So if you imagine trying to listen to someone talking and then you start shouting at the top of your voice, all you're going to hear is your own voice. And that's the problem that you would have in a mobile phone. Today's phones deal with this problem using specialized crystal filters. And these filter out the noise and interference from your own transmission. And they do a very good job. But the problem with those is that they're fixed to a particular frequency. And another requirement for mobile phones is that they need to operate on a wide range of different frequencies. Different frequency bands are being used in different countries. And you've got 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. They keep adding frequency bands. And so phones now have many of these crystal filters and switches to select between them. And that makes them large, expensive, and impacts performance. My PhD work, we'd identified this problem. It's a known problem in the industry, and many mobile phone manufacturers are interested in solving this because it's very valuable if you can solve this problem. And specifically, the research at the university was looking at signal cancellation technologies. So instead of filtering out the noise and interference from your own transmission, can you cancel that signal out? Because you know what you're transmitting, so maybe you can subtract that from the signal that you're receiving and deal with that signal leakage another way. University work, we developed and worked on a range of different cancellation technologies. There are many ways that you could implement this, and we tried a few. And we developed a very good understanding of this cancellation technology, which meant that when we founded the company, we had all of the tools that we needed and all of the background and understanding of that technology to be able to develop cancellation circuits that are suitable to go into mobile phones. The way that this cancellation technology, addresses that problem of multiple fixed filters is that we're able to replace those crystal filters with filters that are tunable. So they still give you some filtering, but they don't quite give you enough isolation, enough filtering to suppress the leakage from your own transmission. And that's where our cancellation circuit comes in, that we're able to then cancel out the signal leakage that remains after you're filtering with tunable filters. This means that we can create a tunable duplexer, and that component can replace all of those fixed frequency filters with a single component, and therefore it saves a lot of space and reduces complexity.
Yeah, as you say, there's a number of benefits there. There's the reduction in complexity of different components, space saving. Is it fair to say there'd be power saving as well if you're not using as many modules within the device? Is that a benefit?
The tunability aspect of the technology can lead to power savings. So in the industry, all these crystal filter components, for example, that Leo's alluding to, are all specified to a particular standard for your watch or your phone to be in. It's a 50 ohm standard. Now, in practice, in real life scenarios, that is not the scenario that your phone or watch is experiencing. That is not the RF environment. And so again, what we're looking at is a series of hardwired components that are currently in use that are not offering the flexibility that is needed in real-world scenarios. Our tunable solution can adapt to those scenarios, and yes, that can lead to savings in the amount of power usage, current usage, for example, that can then be translated to battery saving.
And it sounds like manufacturers must be very excited about the fact they don't have to have different models for different markets, right? You've got this single module that works globally on any frequency.
Absolutely. It removes one of the key barriers to creating a truly global device.
Does this open up new use cases for things that might have cellular inside them? Different types of device or different kind of use cases that previously haven't been too addressable?
Potentially, yes. I mean, one of the benefits of the technology in terms of the flexibility is that you've got a kind of plug and play radio chip. That's our goal. And this opens up other applications where the cost of having a variety of devices would be prohibitive for manufacturers. So Internet of Things, for example, that flexibility helps to keep costs down for manufacturers.
There must be a big sustainability message in there as well, in terms of components and volume of devices that are out there.
Yeah, from a sustainability perspective, the global SKUs element, as you said, having a single global variant, we see it with a number of OEMs, smartwatch, smartphone OEMs. They have to have multiple design variants of their product in order to service different markets in the world, different regions. In our case, we would be able to get away from that. And indeed, also the tunability aspect, being able to reduce some of the power consumption, are two key green credentials that you can attach to our technology.
Obviously, this isn't our area of expertise, so forgive the simple questions. But in terms of the competition and the kind of the market opportunity, is this unique in the market, or are you competing against other providers? What kind of market advantage have you got right now?
We are the first company that has solved this issue that Leo has described in a way that is power efficient. It has a small footprint with semiconductor processes that are consistent with current technologies. And we've been able to package it up in a made-to-measure module. Others have tried, but this is the first product that's going into market that is meeting industry standards. So, yes, we are therefore meeting a need. The question that I will face as I try to bring this to our customer base is, the next step is to get this designed into their existing RF architectures. And the way we've gone about our design process is that we've looked at what's currently available. We are looking at a being able to replace like for the low band module, our module instead of what's currently being used. But that will be the challenge. The next challenge will be qualifying our technology and then getting it designed into a product.
How does that process work? Do you develop, to a specification, or is it a collaborative engineering process to do that integration?
So in our field, there are international specifications for radio frequency specifications. These are known as 3GPP. So these are standards that everybody must meet at a minimum. On top of that, some OEMs might have their own specific specifications that they would want us to meet. But broadly speaking, these 3GPP specifications allow us to set our product targets.
And just keeping on that same sort of theme, these are really long sales cycles as well. How do you manage keeping the development of the tech going whilst being ready for those sales cycles to actually kick in?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are a fabless semiconductor company. Our investors understand that. They understand very clearly, the development cycle that we're going through right now and the investment that's required as a fabless semiconductor company in bringing these chips to market. So that's all built into our company planning. And so the target that we have is to bring customers on board one by one. But actually, customers will have multiple products that are all using RF front-end technology. So once you're designed into one product, it'll be very easy to scale within that organization to other product lines. And from there, we expect to extend into other customers.
I believe you have a new product coming in 2026, a smartwatch chip. So maybe you could kind of walk us through the kind of process that takes to create a new product line like that, in terms of the research that you have to do, the relationships you have to build with the manufacturers, and how do you bring that to market and to ensure a successful rollout? Yeah,
so the product you allude to is FFM 51010. This is our first go-to-market product, and it covers, Leo was talking about the different frequency bands. So it covers all the bands that are between 600 megahertz and a gigahertz. And that product, we are targeting smartwatch manufacturers. Leo was talking about ultimately the aim of the company is, of course, to ship into the much higher volume smartphone market. But as an entry to market, the smartwatch is where we're going first. And so that product is really set up nicely, because if you look at the requirements for people wearing smartwatches, they want to have cellular connectivity wherever they are. So inside buildings, we're inside an office block right now, or whether you're out running in the countryside or off on a bike ride, you want to be able to have that connectivity. And the low band frequencies of the spectrum are the best for delivering long-range connectivity, but also connectivity within dense urban environments. So our product is really targeted specifically for that product type.
Okay, so that's really interesting. And how do you go about actually forming the relationships with the manufacturers themselves to get that kind of route to market?
You need to have some credibility to be able to establish relationships with these kind of manufacturers. The semiconductor industry, it's very consolidated. Manufacturing companies are very large. Typically, they don't deal with many small companies. Their customers are very large companies. So to get in the door with a tier one foundry, you need to establish some credibility. And we have that credibility from people in our team who have established track records in this industry. And we have some credibility from demonstrating that we have technology that works, not necessarily using those manufacturing processes. But when we initially approached foundries that we're working with now, we already had hardware results from printed circuit board demonstrators. So we could show that we were a serious proposition. That and the fact that we're addressing such a large market creates a bit of pull for those manufacturers to want to work with us, because they don't want to miss the boat.
No, it's really interesting insights into both the go-to-market and obviously the technology. So I'd like to move us on and talk a little bit about the funding journeys that you've been through to date. So you talked initially 2020 getting some funding from Cambridge Angels, and 2021 we had the $1.5 million investment led by Bristol-based Science Creates Ventures and included Foresight Williams Technology, BGF, and also the Cambridge Angels. And then 12 months ago, almost, you raised the $60 million Series A round, where Cambridge Innovation Capital and Octopus Ventures came in as lead investors as well. So how has that investment journey been for you, both thinking about your own personal background and in terms of the growth of the business?
It was a very steep learning curve to start with, and that's where the mentorship and support that I had in founding the company was really, really valuable. I mean, one learning that I took from that is that the feedback you get from speaking to the investors is very valuable. And so we were refining our pitch as we were going, through a long list of investors that we were speaking to, eventually finding the right investors. Semiconductor companies are at the extreme end of high risk, high reward. So the pool of investors that invest in semiconductor companies is relatively small. It's a small proportion of, the total investors out there. So for Forefront RF, we quickly learned to be more selective about who we were talking to, because there were many investors that you would, by looking at the website, you could assess whether or not they're the type of investor that would invest in a company with this risk profile. And you could save a lot of time by not talking to those investors in the first place. Semiconductor companies also need a lot of capital. And so we're very pleased to have a consortium of investors that we have. And we think we've got the right investors that understand the type of company that Forefront RF is.
It's a different capital requirement compared to your typical software kind of startup. What kind of runway does that give you? How much flexibility have you got now based on the money you've raised to date?
The runways that we've been able to achieve have sort of varied between funding rounds, but typically 1 to 2 years. We've never had more than a 2-year runway from any given investment round, based on the business plan that was in place at the time of those investments. But that is sufficient to, reach a value inflection point, reach a milestone. So, yes, I don't think we would expect much more than that necessarily.
And that kind of gets us into the next milestones then. What are you looking to do next? Is it about getting the product to market, getting the customers in? Will you be looking at a new funding round? Where are you on that journey?
All of those things. Our focus now is really about getting the first product completed and into the market and getting our samples in front of customers as soon as possible. Alexander, you can say some more about that.
Yeah, I would concur with what Leo's saying. Our priority target for the next 12 months is to get our product into customers and really to tape out our end product that we will ship into them. So it's really bringing the customers on board over the next 6 months, qualifying our technology with them, ensuring that they design our module into their front-end architecture, and from there on, kick on. And as Leo says, this all relates to some of the value inflection points for the organization, and that helps us then lead into the next series of funding rounds.
We've touched a little bit on talent and team, through the conversation, but let's drill into that a little bit. Talk to us about the talent market in the UK and obviously the Netherlands. How's it been finding the right kind of talent? You spoke about finding people with reputation with the manufacturers to build that credibility. How easy has it been to build the team and attract people to an early stage startup in quite a mature industry?
It's always been a challenge. Recruitment it's never been easy for us, I would say. And I think that's due to the niche skills that we're looking for and the fact that there are just not that many people with those skills in the UK. Having said that, we've done very well, particularly growing the company in the last 12 months. We're about, 40% larger than we were 12 months ago. And we've got some very, very good people in the team. So I'm really happy with what we've achieved in growing the team, but it's never been something that's easy.
Are you working directly with universities to kind of get access to talent early and kind of build those graduate programs? Is that part of the plan?
We're not at that stage quite yet. We've been in the early stages tending to recruit more experienced people, but as the company's grown larger, we have more of a mix of more junior and more senior people in the team now. I'd also say the motivations and type of person, I suppose you might say, who's interested in a very early stage startup is a bit different to the type of person that's interested in joining a scale-up company or a company of the size and stage that we are now.
As the company has evolved towards really focusing on a product and on a deliverable, and where the customer is the driving force, that also focuses the mind of the staff. And you've got to find the right people who are willing to work under that environment. And so, as Leo is saying, as you move from startup to scale up, you expect different sets of skills and different sets of interests. So the company has evolved in that regard.
And I think that actually affected you personally, didn't it? Ronald came in as the CEO a few years ago. And actually, as a startup, you have to know when's the right time to bring different people in. So I know James asked the question about the up and coming talent, but, I very much heard what you were saying then about it's the expertise as well. And then you kind of strike me as a company that doesn't mind making those hard decisions. Phil O'Donovan, I started the podcast with, talking about he was the chair at the time, and now Rupert Baines is in as the chair. So, it's that evolution, isn't it, that I think is really important that you embrace?
Absolutely. I mean, selling components into smartwatches and smartphones, you don't just show up and sell a component to the kind of companies that are producing products on that scale. You need to have the right team to be able to do that.
So a recurring theme on the podcast is this kind of challenge of scaling companies in the UK, right? And it was a big theme of the recent Tech Week in Cambridge as well. So what's your perspective? Do you feel like it's kind of down to you and your closest advisors and investors to figure that out? Or are you seeing more infrastructure and support for scale up? Because there's a big focus on the starting stage, but the scaling stage, it feels like it's a little bit more go figure it out yourself. Are you seeing more support, more programs, or are you feeling it is very much down to you to figure out?
I would say there isn't a huge amount of support of the type that we need. Our plans are quite clear to us, and for us, it's just about executing those plans and getting that product in front of the customer and into the market. So it's really about resources is what it boils down to.
The scaling has to be done within the realms of the resources that we have available to us. Yeah. And I hear you about some of these topics coming up in, for example, it was the key theme at Cambridge Tech Week last year. And being able to attend those kind of events and hear from others what their experiences have been, both positive and negative, actually that helps. And so for the discussion, at least to be there in our network, in our ecosystem, is really valuable. But I think what Leo was saying is about the flexibility that we need to demonstrate with the resources that we have and are bringing in, but also the flexibility in terms of how we will end up going to market and servicing the customers that we're trying to attract in a way that we can manage.
And Alexander, I think it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because you talked about Cambridge Tech Week last year. You were there at Cambridge Tech Week this year, having that profile. You won 21 to Watch a couple of years ago. It's important, isn't it, to keep out there and you could very easily just be very focused internally and on the customers, but you've got to keep your profile raised, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're lucky that we are in this environment in Cambridge where there is an ecosystem where people are very happy to talk about their experiences, and there are organizations that put on these platforms for people like Leo and I to attend. So yeah, I feel lucky that we're here and that we can take advantage of that.
It was part of the reason for building the company in Cambridge, is that Cambridge is the best place in the UK to be a startup company. You do have access to talent and other startup companies around you.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in some ways you've got an ultra-focused go-to-market because there's only so many customers out there that are going to buy your product. But as Faye alluded to, you kind of need to keep the profile of the business high because you obviously need to be seen as a trailblazer, to attract the right kind of talent. So there is a kind of marketing job to be done, even though your actual core product marketing is ultra-focused.
Absolutely.
I would agree with you. And I think that's also some of the motivations for us to be present at Cambridge Tech Week. As Leo said, we've got a great group of people working here now, but, recruitment is an always on activity. So
brilliant. So what's next? Looking ahead over the next 12 months, what will you have achieved?
In an ideal scenario, This time next year, we will be looking at a customer having designed our module into their product and placing the first orders and working with our manufacturing partners on delivering that. So that really is the primary focus and goal of the company.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great time to have this conversation because we're in that exciting period where you're just about to go to market. Even though it's taken a substantial amount of time to get to this point, it's right at the cusp of something exciting. So we're definitely going to keep tracking, and we'd love to get you back on when those first contracts come in. That would be an exciting conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really looking forward to that too.
Today's show was produced by Carl Homer of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner, Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It'll really help others discover the show.